Welcome to Broken Bushcraft. Today we're going to talk about how to make a snare. Now, there are some responsibilities that come with making a snare and when you set it and how you set it. So don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share, and let's kick this off. What is a snare? A snare is simply something that's going to hold an animal in place for it can either neutralize it or it can hold it in place for you to come and dispatch it. Snares have been around for a million years. They've harvested millions of animals. It's one of the simplest primitive traps that we have out there. Now, with a snare, there's some things you have to think about. This is a trap. If you don't have a trapping license, you're not just going to go set these things up, hoping to snag a deer or to snag a possum or a raccoon or something, unless you have a trapping license. So in an emergency, obviously, we can justify us trapping an animal. Two is you'll never set up a snare where you don't know where it's at. So you'll make sure you have a dedicated trap line or a line where you walk area where you set your snares up. You'll mark them so you know where they're at. You should check your snares at least twice a day, once to twice a day, so that's why you don't have an animal suffering in there. Also, these snares will hold the animal on the ground. They're not going to lift it up. So other animals can come and take advantage of your food source. So this is why we check it once or twice a day, probably in the morning and then at night. Now, snares are neat. Another thing with snares, don't just set them up around your property to catch the local raccoons, the cats, the kids, whatever. This is, can hurt somebody. So you need to use this responsibly. There's my caveat. Now also, don't be using this anywhere else. For your snare, all you're simply gonna need is some wire, and then you gotta figure out what kind of core you're going for. So if you're gonna go for possum, rabbits, some raccoons, stuff like that, you gotta figure out how big their head is and then how much of this can be used as a tie-off, because we have to tie this off so when the animal goes through this snare, it tightens down, it just doesn't run off with it. So get yourself about 3.5 feet of cordage or wire or cordage, whatever you need. You can use 550 cord, you're just gonna use a tie a bowline knot to it. We'll do that in a different video. Now get something thin, like this is like one of those little ferrocerium rods or a stick. Set yourself up a little tail about 2 to 3 inches off here. Wrap this around 2 or 3 times, and then bring the tail down and wrap it around. Just once or twice. Pull your ferrocerium rod out, and now you have a perfect little loop there for this to slip in. Now, this little tail here is a fur catch. So as the animal comes through, it's gonna feel that brush its fur and try to go forward, and this will lock down on the animal on its neck, choking it out quickly. Now to set this up, I have this little area here where some small creature goes through. I have this nice little stump here. So I'm gonna take my snare, I'm gonna set it up about 3 inches off the ground. Now what I'm doing is I'm tying this off to this stump right here so that it doesn't, so when the animal gets it's around the neck, you can't just pop it off. Now, set this about 3 inches off the ground. This is where the animal walks. And then as he comes through, he or she, this will cinch down their neck. Now for your success, you can do stuff like put sticks on this side and sticks on this side so that the animal's forced to channel through here, and that way it offers you the best success. I'm gonna take this down because I don't want to leave it here. I've removed my snare. Obviously, it would be irresponsible of me to leave this out here when I'm not trying to trap anything for food. I'm a well-fed boy, so I'm good for right now. But this right here would absolutely get me a meal. But I wouldn't just set one. I would set probably 12 to 24 of these around a different game areas. I'd look for food sources. I would look for trails to set them up on. Now, if you do set snares up for an emergency situation, remember when you're rescued to go back and get these, because you don't want to inadvertently kill an animal that you're not going to eat. I hope you enjoyed that. Do this responsibly, and I'll see you in the woods.